Okay, I think we can start. It's a little past 4:30, so let's kick off with this DASH webinar on federated learning with a subtitle, "The Future of Digital Health." And maybe we can put a question mark there because hopefully we'll get that answer from the presenters of today, whether this is the future of digital health and whether we can use this in the future. My name is Peter van Ooijen. I'm part of DASH. I'm running the machine learning lab, and I'm one of the experts in the DASH team. I will give you a short introduction on DASH, and then we'll quickly move on to the real content of this afternoon on federated learning. So DASH is the Data Science Center in Health. Our main goal is to embed data science into the DNA of the UMCG. And we have a vision for the UMCG to be an international leader in data-driven healthcare innovation. Why do we want to do that? Well, data-driven innovation contributes to our goal of building the future of health and has the potential to transform health and healthcare. And how do we want to do that? Well, by looking at different strategic lines. We're of course looking at data science because we're the Data Science Center in Health, but we've chosen 4 larger topics, which are machine learning, clinical application of artificial intelligence, e-health, and clinical cohort data. And those are 4 topics that we chosen as those strategic lines, and we linked people to that. So as I said, I'm part of the more technical area of machine learning itself within the machine learning lab. Then we have to the right Job Doornberg. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He is on the clinical application of AI. Esther Metting, who is focusing on e-health, and Rosemarijn Vliegenthart, who's a radiologist, who is focusing on the clinical cohort data. And from that different areas that we look at, we have different activities that we're employing as DASH. For example, we do education, of which these webinars are a part, but we also have our online course on AI in healthcare and our serious game that we have. We're also looking at funding opportunities and, for example, support people that want to do projects that have something to do with data science within the UMCG. On the other hand, we also have facilities. We have a think tank, for example, a group of people from different departments in the UMCG with different backgrounds that give us advice on what directions we could go into and try to steer us a bit in possibilities that are coming up and that might be interesting for us to look into. We have the machine learning lab, as I said before, a large and growing community of people that are actually doing the data science work within the UMCG and abroad, that are involved in projects here, where we have a different series of webinars and sometimes live lectures that are more on the technical side of things. And for example, something we're setting up now is the IT lab, where we actually look at getting GPUs and that kind of things available to our researchers to be able to do the work that they want to do. And that is together forming the basic stones of our project portfolio, different projects that we are supporting every year. So shortly there will be this year again a round of calls for projects for DASH, and then we'll use these facilities that we have and the activities that we do to support projects that are proposed by people within the UMCG, that we will not only a little bit of financial support, but more about getting the right connections and getting the right people involved to get a project going. So with that, we are at the program of today. First, we will start with Dr. Anna Jerebko. She's head of clinical conditions and workflow, digital and automation at Diagnostic Imaging of Siemens Healthineers. And the presentation of Dr. Jerebko will be about enabling scalable medical imaging AI with federated learning. After that lecture, we will have a lecture by Erfan Darzidehkalani. He is one of the PhD students in my group. And he's also working on a project that we do in the Netherlands with multiple hospitals on federated learning. So he will talk about what we are doing within the UMCG with federated learning. Please keep your microphones on mute. If you want to ask a question, raise a hand and wait for your turn, or type your question in the chat. You can type it in the chat during or after the presentation, and in between you can also raise your hands. We will record this webinar, and it can be viewed later also. So with that, I finish my introduction, and I would like to give the screen to Anna to give her presentation.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the introduction. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great.
And we also see your screen.
Great, great. So thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me to make this presentation. Today, I would like to give you an overview of the federated learning from a perspective of a medical device manufacturing company. I work for Siemens Healthineers, and perhaps you heard that we make medical scanners like CT, MR, PET, X-rays, mammography, among other things. And it's not only hardware, we also focus on digital health solutions, and among them on artificial intelligence in healthcare. Now, let's look at this slide. Let's look at how software and AI developed over the decades. It all started with software, and the software we told exactly, step by step, how to do the work for us. Then came the machine learning. We can teach the computers how to do the work by providing examples. And when machine learning evolved into a modern-day deep learning AI, it became especially hungry for those examples. We could train a lung nodule detection AI or machine learning with 300 samples 15 years ago. Now, not with deep learning. With deep learning, we need thousands and preferably millions of examples. In many other fields, training samples are abundant. Therefore, the world of AI technology has changed fundamentally in the last decade. And medical AI, not so much. The modern deep learning-based tools designed to improve accuracy and efficiency in radiology are quite a bit better than they were a decade ago, but not as much as they could have been if we had an abundance of data, like in the other fields, like perfectly annotated, unambiguous, unbiased, and abiding by data privacy laws. Now, how do we improve? How do we give the medical AI a boost? AI tools are used for routine reading in radiology every day in thousands of clinics around the world. Radiologists review and correct AI results for tens of thousands of patients. Can AI learn from that just by observing how radiologists do the work? Can it get better and better over time? And can we do that without exporting patient data from the hospitals? Well, federated learning is a decentralized way of training AI without pulling data to a central location. And one of its most fascinating applications is learning from the users as they use their devices and give the feedback to AI, to the tools. It's learning without requiring any special annotations. And in this presentation, I will focus on some challenges of federated learning in routine reading in radiology, and will give some insights into the very first results. Let's look at this illustration. In federated learning, we can design an initial model, initialize it with random weights or pre-train it, and send it to different locations around the world that have data samples. In our case, we send it to the hospitals or radiology departments, which routinely read patient cases, measure lesions, review, correct AI results, and thus they provide samples to train our models. Then each model is trained locally without exporting data from the clinics, and only the model updates are sent back and aggregated into an updated model, which over time grows into a powerful tool. Now, this is of course a dream. We are not quite there yet, but we have the first results and simulations to share. Now, let's take a step for a little bit outside of our medical imaging field and radiology. Who else is using federated learning, and for what? And has it become the state of art already? So here is what I Googled. Does Siri use federated learning? Federated learning keeps your data at your phone, Siri says. It sends the updated models of all Siri users who have allowed the usage back to a central server, which is then combined into a master model. Google uses collaborative machine learning without centralized training data by enabling mobile phones to collaboratively learn a shared prediction model while keeping all the training data on the device. And another one I really like is the Mercedes commercial called Enlightenment. It is so good, it's almost creepy. Listen to it. Ingenuity in motion. It listens, learns, adapts, and anticipates your every need. With intelligence that feels anything but artificial, it's the electric has been waiting for, right? So yes, it's used, but is it all over the place? And and perhaps are we better without it? Let me give you another example. I don't have a Mercedes, I have a Subaru. And no, federated learning is not everywhere yet. It's not my Subaru. Subaru has a safety feature. It reverse automatic braking. With no federated learning, no self-learning, my Subaru brakes every day in exact same place on my driveway, thinking there is an obstacle when there is none. And its camera has seen this place in every possible lighting condition over 5 years. And I wish it could learn. And now back to healthcare. Our customers correct our AI results and tools every day, like this. Point out our mistakes, accept correct results. Can we learn from this? At Siemens Healthineers, our goal is to automate routine radiologist workflow. Learn from the routine usage of AI and other tools by thousands of customers. And with that, we would like to overcome AI bias. Data for AI should come from all over the world, representing true patient population. We'd like to address data privacy and data governance challenges. We would like to monitor algorithm performance with real-world data and learn through user feedback on AI results, improve algorithms, and with that, eventually improve patient outcomes. Now, traditionally, medical AI is trained with data specifically annotated by multiple experts, and often it's reviewed multiple times. Can we train AI with noisy routine data? Is it even possible? Can we learn it in a lean way without deploying additional hardware at customer sites? Can we use the existing machines and reading and reporting workstations? Can we train AI and preserve data privacy? Can we not export any patient health information, any images outside of the hospitals? Important constraint here for the current research experience is we do not aim or plan to continuously release the learned models, right? In the clinics, we keep the models used in clinical practice static, released according to the medical device manufacturing process, right? CE marked or FDA released, so we want to play it safe here, right? So we learn in a federated learning way, but we release through a regular process. To understand routine reading data and AI, we have created the 360-degree AI portal, where we collect the statistics of which tools are used, in which organs and body parts, and how often our customers need to correct specific algorithm results. If our customers or collaborators allow us, we even collect the small snippets of images in the area where AI results were corrected. confirmed or a missing lesion was marked by the radiologist. And to AI labs in the hospitals around the world, we can give them this data back so that they can also learn something, so they can train their own models. This is also possible. Now we use anatomy intelligence or anatomy sorter for organ identification to understand in which organ a certain abnormality is located, so that we can train a specific model for each organ or abnormality. We don't train all of them, right? Right now. From our 360-degree AI dashboard, we could see that one of the most frequently measured abnormalities are lung lesions or nodules in chest CT. And our first federated learning application is lung nodule detection. And clinically, here is why. Why lung cancer? It is #1 cancer in mortality. It's more than 1.7 million lung cancer deaths per day, more than 5,000 deaths per day, and a very, very low, less than 20% survival rate. And why is that? Because it's usually detected too late to treat successfully. More than half of the patients have distant metastasis at the time of diagnosis. So what can we do at Siemens Healthineers, at academia? We can help in all steps along the patient pathway. Starting with screening, early detection, we can help to find cancers early while they are still treatable. Then help with efficient and precise diagnosis, stage and treatment and follow-up. And now in this presentation, I will focus on early detection AI with the help of federated learning. The core of early detection of lung cancer now is screening with low-dose CT. And the backbone of lung cancer screening AI is nodule detection with LungCAD, computer-aided detection. We have a powerful AI nodule detection already. We have completed a large clinical study for the FDA approval, or that was on the latest LungCAD algorithm. We investigated the use of LungCAD AI as a second reader, like a spell checker, and as a first reader. And our study demonstrated, switch the slide, that LungCAD as a second reader or as a first reader, both modes increased reader nodule sensitivity of up to 20%, with only 2% drop in low-level specificity on average. This result is for the first reader mode, and it's similar for the second reader mode. So up to 20% more nodules, potential cancers could be found, and more patients will survive. This is a great result, but we would like to improve it even more. So we are working on boosting detection accuracy with federated learning. Higher accuracy means fewer false positives, less time radiologists spend reviewing them, and leading to better efficiency. We aim to scale and improve the accuracy with massive amounts of data in federated learning. So we made a feasibility study with 50 clients and about 9,000 patients. We are trying to answer the question, can we learn from noisy data? There were thoracic CT volumes obtained from multiple sites, and some were used to train LungCAD, some were used for validation. 10 radiologists annotated more than 27,000 nodules. And to simulate decentralized learning, data was split into 50 non-overlapping clients, 100 patients each. That's 5,000 patients for training, and the rest of the data was used for validation, test, and a portion was set aside, untouched for now. Data quality varies a lot. These are different scanners, reconstruction kernels, highly variable slice thickness. Lots of variables here, right? So for simplicity, we started with cyclic federated learning. So at any instant, model training occurs at only one client. And the obtained post-training aggregated to form an updated global model. We've explored a couple of aggregation strategies, including federated averaging and FedProx. I will show the first results with Fed average. And this is just another depiction of the cyclic consecutive federated learning. Not asynchronous yet. The next step would be asynchronous federated learning, where hospitals produce data at different speed and train new models with different frequency at various times. So we took a picture from a paper, from somebody else's paper, just as an example. Now it's time to show the first results, which are very encouraging. This is an FRC curve. It shows sensitivity on the x-axis, and this is a percentage of nodules correctly detected and the number of false positives detections per patient on the x, right? So sensitivity on the y. This experiment and the resulting curve show that if we increase the number of clients in federated learning, we get significantly better performance. Now, the perfect model will be in the left upper corner, close to 100% sensitivity and as low as possible false positive rate, ideally close to 0. Now, this curve shows a considerable improvement if we add more clients. It will not always and not generally will be the case. It's more complicated than that. But we intend to improve significantly by adding more, by adding hundreds of clients. Another challenge we wanted to address first is that can we do federated learning with noisy data from routine reading, annotated by one radiologist with the help of AI, and not by majority or consensus readers or multiple reviewers. Now you see two curves. The light blue curve represents the FDA-approved product that I talked about, trained in a traditional way on data annotated by multiple reviewers and reviewed many times. The dark green curve is the federated learning trained with noisy data, with these 50 clients I talked about. And the curves are very close to one another. At some point, one is better and then the other is better. And the statistical analysis shows that the federated learning is non-inferior, meaning it's equivalent to traditionally trained model, even if it's initialized for these 50 clients with random weights. And today in the morning, the team presented the brand new results where federated learning is considerably better than traditional. And I hope that we continue to improve. So as I mentioned, we have an incredible team working on federated learning. We are distributed all over the world, in the USA, in Germany, United Kingdom, and India. I would like to thank them all. Great people and great results. The only thing is it's hard to present the results because they're so hardworking. By the time I'm done with the presentation, the results are outdated already. So that's my major problem today. So thank you so much for your attention and hopefully for your enthusiasm.
Thank you, Anna. Are there questions from the audience? I see something coming up in the chat. Koen asks, thanks. He says, thanks for the interesting talk. And he asks, how often are you able to release updated models with the medical device regulation in mind, mentioned as constraint on slide 9?
Yeah, so we haven't done that yet. So we are just preparing to talk to the FDA about how would we be able to release this model, right? It's not so trivial because traditionally how FDA approvals go, we have to keep all the data with which we trained and validated the model. We know that FDA has been thinking about this, right? So, and we are getting ready, getting all the statistical evaluations and possible approaches to talk to them about that. But we are not there yet. We haven't released any models.
Okay, thank you. I agree. It's difficult. They try to do something at FDA and they already have some proposed ways or schemes to do that, but the problem will be, of course, the constant quality control that we need then. Marlene asks, do you use MDDT, medical device development tools, for this validation process?
Medical device development tools. Thank you for the question. I'm not sure what you exactly mean. We follow a medical device manufacturing process, right? So with all the tools and validation sets established at Siemens. So currently we validate on this same noisy data acquired at different sites, as well as a traditional database, traditional set kept centrally. So, and so far the results are consistent.
Marleen added something to qualify that the MDDT is an initiative from the FDA to regulate ongoing processes.
Right. So for the regular development process, yes, we follow all the medical device regulations, right? Oh, here we're trying to investigate something new, and the new part would be: can we also validate on this distributed data, the data distributed all over the world? Our problem currently, we do follow all of these processes. The data really quickly become outdated. You know, kernels developed, so there is new kernels, new scanners. The patient's population changes. Now lots of people had COVID and fibrosis and scars and whatnot. Does it change our data? So here we would like to try to train and validate in a distributed way, but we are just at the beginning of the process. So so far, interesting, consistent results. We are getting ready to discuss them with the FDA, and we are not releasing any of these new learned models for now. Now it's just the research.
Yeah. And then maybe a final question from Bart. He says, thanks for the interesting talk. What are the major constraints or objections you get from the hospitals that participate in the project? Do for instance, privacy officers trust your method of working?
Thank you. Another excellent question. So the simulation experiment I showed with the 50 clients is a simulation, right? So we acquired the data, divided them here, and simulated federated learning. We have our collaborators with whom we have collaboration contracts, and the collaboration contracts are carefully reviewed by legal and data privacy at the hospitals. And for now, we are deploying our tools to 3 hospitals around the world with explicit collaboration contracts, paid contracts. But in the future, we are working with legal and data privacy, and we are working on how to entice the hospitals to participate in this process. It's a great question. I don't have an answer yet. So right now, through collaborations.
Okay, maybe one last one. And Michiel asked how many hospitals are currently involved and from how many continents? And does that have an influence on the training process? So is the distribution, does that help, or is that a negative thing maybe?
The results are very interesting, right? So even with the simulation, there was 4 data suppliers. Some of them are chains of hospitals, and they were distributed all over the United States, and they experiment with the 50 clients, right? We are just starting our new collaboration with India, United States hospitals in India and United States. This would be 3 locations, and we don't have the results yet. So we are just starting. And what I showed is a simulation with hospitals in the United States.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the questions.
Maybe we will have some time later on for questions, but first I think we should move on to the presentation of Erfan. So thank you, Anna. We'll move on to Erfan Darzidehkalani, who will give his presentation on enabling scalable AI at the UMCG with federated learning.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello all.
Yes, I can.
Hi, thank you, Peter and Anna, for your presentations. So now I'm going to discuss about federated learning at the UMCG. So first, a brief overview of the topics that I'm going to discuss. I will first give you an introduction about the federated learning, and then the infrastructure we deployed at the UMCG, the communication ways to other hospitals, and the federated learning algorithms and the medical image processing tasks that we are working on. So federated learning is a distributed machine learning approach that trains machine learning models on distributed data sets. If I want to give you a definition, also commonly known as privacy-preserving machine learning. So I want to briefly give you different flavors of federated learning, different categories that are being used in healthcare. And the importance about these categories is that, like, because this field has developed a lot, we have to first clarify which exact use case and category we are working on in federated learning in order to be able to deploy a proper algorithm. So first, a big tech category is cross-device federated learning, in which you have like a lot of devices. Each of them have rather small data sets. And it's not that all of them participate in the network all the time. A small portion of them are available. So we can, for example, if I want to give you an example, we can say, for example, electronic health records or biosensor or smartwatches. We can have like millions of them participating in the network, and then we train a model based on that. Also, if you have a lot of computers, let's say, or data processing units within an organization, you can do cross-device federated learning between them. Another large category is cross-silo federated learning, in which you have very few organizations, but they have big data sets, and the data sets probably differ from each other in terms of the data distribution or the modalities that they use, and that's more suitable for global collaborations. And also for like imaging data, we have very huge data sets located in each organization. So other questions that one has to answer before starting deployment of federated learning, and of course we did it as well, was the way that data is partitioned across different hospitals. For example, one way of data distribution is vertical federated learning, which is that for each patient or for each data record, you have some features located in one hospital, some other features located in other hospitals, and you fuse the information for each patient by federated learning. For example, like if somebody has the MRI images located in one center, and then they have to have like the EEGs in another center, then you can combine them with federated learning if you don't want to move the data across the centers. Then we have we have horizontal federated learning, in which the features are the same, but you have different data centers, different hospitals, and but you have to fuse the samples in a way. Which this one is more commonly used. So most of the federated learning deployments are horizontal federated learning. Another thing is the distribution characteristics. So for example, some nodes, some hospitals, they might have more annotations, more features, both on the data sets or the target labels, that can induce problems or challenges in the federated setup. So how can we handle the feature difference and everything? So then I will go to the deployments. The first step is the infrastructure and the cloud or private environment that you have to put your data and processing on. So one of the approaches that we used was using Azure cloud environment for doing the local federated learning. So if you look at the flow chart here, the figure, you have the cloud processing GPU cluster provided by Microsoft. It also has the Docker containers of the AI modules like TensorFlow, PyTorch, and then at the UMCG, you store the data and you submit a training job to the GPU clusters, and it queries the containers and does it for you. So the good thing about this deployment setup is that it's rather simple because the complexities are handled in the backend by Microsoft, but the downside is that it can be really expensive if you have like lots of data or you want to do heavy computation. So another approach that we also tried was private cloud deployment. So the approach here is that when you have like some physical setup, computation nodes or data storage, you can build one layer of software and use it as a cloud environment. So for that, we use OpenStack, which is a open source software gathering like 4 main softwares. One is like Swift, which you can interact with it, is a server that is offered by OpenStack. Then for networking, you use Neutron, and you can also use different softwares for computing and object storage. And the good thing about OpenStack is supported by community, and it's really easily scalable. If you want to add more data nodes or computing power, it can be done quickly. But also the problem is that, for example, if you are stuck in some complexities that not handled by that, then it might be a problem if you want to compare it to private solutions like Microsoft or Amazon. But on the top of the infrastructure softwares, then we have the communication modules. So that's the way that we connect to other hospitals participating in federated network. So for that, there are also different softwares providing the federated communication, and they each have like different. They might be like open source or private, or they also have like different architectures. So one of the modules that we use was is called PPDLI or Vantage 6. The general architecture is that it's consisting of 3 main parts. One is track, in which it communicates the message between different clients. The train is a central compute node which aggregates the information as a central server, and also data station, which is at each hospital we have data and computing node at each hospital, which is called data station. So as you see, a researcher submits the request to a PHT server or personal health train, and it interacts with data nodes, and then the data nodes compute, as you can see in this slide. They train the local models on the local data, and then they send the updated models to the trusted compute node, and it then aggregates the weights. So the main feature of this architecture is that it has like 2 central servers. So the researcher cannot directly interact with data nodes. It has to be connected to one server, and also the hospitals are connected to another server. So that's like one more layer of security. So if we zoom into the data nodes, we see that they have the computational infrastructure and also a data storage for imaging data, which is stored on XNAT server locally, and the computation is done in a Docker container. Training and test data are queried from the image data storage, and after training the model, the models are sent back with an HTTP communication protocol to the trusted node. And also in the computing node, in which it aggregates the data, there is also a Docker container, and the server is based on Flask software or module, and it aggregates the weights, and then it sends it back again with HTTP communication. The next module that we use was Variant Learning Portal, which is provided by Siemens. It has a bit of different architecture than the previous open source software that we used. It consisted of a master and node sources or data nodes. and the communication is through a data proxy, and the aggregation is done by the Varian central server, and there is no research access to that. And there is also two ways that a researcher can communicate with the data node at UMCG and also Varian. So it's also quite secure if we want to compare it with other deployments. On the top of the infrastructure and communication nodes, we have privacy enhancing technologies that they add one layer of security to the setting. We can do the privacy enhancing technologies in data preparation pipelines. So before even we start putting the data into our infrastructure, but then also in the infrastructure, we can have a encrypted computation or communication between hospitals. And also in the training process, there are also different ways to make the process more secure. Mostly in the common federated learning setups, the data de-identification, anonymization, and using synthetic data are the main ways that we de-identify the data. And also we use differential privacy as a measure to make the data more secure. But based on the experiments that we had, it's not enough that we only use the common practices. So in theory and also in practice, it's possible that we have de-identified data and also we use differential privacy, but the infrastructure might still not be really secure. And on the top of all, then we can deploy the algorithms after we have the infrastructure ready. So the algorithms that we deployed first was federated averaging, which is that you have the central server and it aggregates and does a simple averaging of the data from each hospital. And actually it gives weight to each hospital based on the data number of data samples it has. So it's well studied in the literature. And it's really good. It has easy convergence, but it's also sensitive to imbalanced data. So if a hospital has too many data points and the other one has less, it might not converge well. And it has been used also in medical image processing tasks a lot. We have large projects for COVID-19 scans and lung nodule detection. But there are also other algorithms that we deployed. One is single weight transfer, which you have one institution, you train a model on it, and then you get the output from that, and then you pass it to the other ones and back and forth. So the positive thing about that is that it doesn't need a central server to synchronize and harmonize the whole setup, and it requires very low communication. But the disadvantage is that it might forget the first institutions that it was trained on. So if we have too many institutions, it's not easy that we can just stick them to each other and train a model. So we have to develop a way that we don't forget institutions. So here comes cyclic weight transfer, in which the model passes the clients multiple times in a sequential manner. It can be done with a server, with a cloud server, or also without a server if each client knows where is the next client. And it needs many rounds to converge, but it's better than the single weight transfer in the sense that it doesn't forget the data from all the institutions. The imaging tasks that we deployed in the setup was first brain tumor segmentation. Like if I want to give you one example of the task. So we used 4,000 tumor scans from 5 hospitals gathered in one data set. And the data set consisted of healthy and cancerous images. And the task was to segment a tumor area from that. The federated learning setup, we use Varian Learning Portal for the cloud infrastructure, and we evaluated the effect of sequential models and compared cyclic weight transfer and single weight transfer. For the segmentation models, the deep learning models used our UNet feature proposal network and ResNext, and the results were like we had DICE scores from 0.6 to 0.8. And it was comparable to the centralized setting. So the best result that we expected to have was that we could have a comparable result to a centralized setting without moving any data. Another task was lymph node histopathology cancer detection. So again, we had like 2,000 samples from 3 hospitals of normal and metastatic slides of lymph node. So here, the federated learning setup, we use federated averaging with 50 federated rounds and also in a differentially private setting. So the detection model we used was a convolutional neural network with 6 convolutional layers. And we also could get a very high accuracy on the detection of lymph node in a federated setting. But we also evaluated the differential privacy setting that if it is sensitive to attacks, which it was. So that's also another story. So if I want to wrap up the observations and considerations that we had, so in the project, we understood that the optimal setting and parameters are domain specific. In each medical imaging domain, you can have a very different variety of optimal parameters. Even the security is domain specific. So if you want to protect your network, you should consider which imaging task you are working on. Then you can find the best method to protect your network. For quick deployment, sequential model work better because they're really fast to deploy. They mostly don't need a central server. They're more efficient, so it's recommended. Yeah, they even work with limited client availability. So if some clients is not connected to the network, you can still run your network and get very good results. And also, the current security measures, some of them might not work all the time. As a conclusion, we can just tell from the experience that we have that federated learning is the de facto way of decentralization. There are other ways, but this is the way which works better and is expected to be practically deployed for medical applications later in the future. And also, it really depends on other emerging technologies, for example, cloud communication. So if we want to see a boost in federated learning deployments, we also need to look at other technologies that are intertwined with that. And so the main 3 points of scalable federated learning would be infrastructure, communication, and security design. So that those are the most important ones that one should consider. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Erfan. Any questions from the audience? It was a very long question, says Bart. Regarding the security design, in particular with smaller sample sizes and sequential model, re-identification by reconstruction from updated models could be a risk. He asked, am I right? Do you have security strategies to confirm updated models do not reveal hints about the local hospital data?
Yes, a very good question. That's right. So you can do some sort of attacks called gradient inversion attacks, in which you, when you receive the model, you can just invert the gradients and reconstruct the data with a very high accuracy. And yes, there are also some strategies. For example, the differential privacy strategy that is widely used, also we deployed, is a measure to protect the model. But it also has its compromises. So the research is still ongoing, but I would say the main part is differential privacy. Also, you can do some gradient obfuscation, so you can just pass the model through a mask that it wouldn't be easy to reconstruct the image. So I would say there are like a few ways to protect the model, and but the research is still going on, so it's a back and forth game between the hackers and the security experts.
As always with security issues, they will come up with new ways to attack and new ways to try and protect it.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions? Okay, Bart says, thanks for the response. Also for the protection of IP, this is relevant. One thing that I would like to mention is that it might have been a very quick overview in about 20 minutes, even less, but Erfan also wrote 2 papers on this topic, a part 1 and a part 2, on towards multi-central healthcare ecosystems by using federated learning and medical imaging. I will put the links to those papers, they are open access, into the chat, so you can also download those and read up more. If there are any other questions for Erfan or for Anna maybe still, please let us know. I don't see any other questions coming up. So if not, then we're gonna wrap up the session of today. Thank you all for attending. I think a very relevant and interesting topic, federated learning. I think we're gonna hear a lot more about it in the coming months to years, because it's really something that could solve some of the problems that we have. Another thing I have to mention is what is on screen now. We have our DASH Sparkle event, first one in a long time, because we're moving a little bit away from only being online. We're also going to move into the red room, the Rode Zaal of the UMCG again, for a physical meeting, and that will be on AI and robotics. So you're all welcome to invite. You can register by using the QR code that's on the screen now, and we will have presentations from different researchers that are actually using those robots in the hospital for different applications, and they also have some demos. So if you want to see the robots in action, make sure you are at the AI and Robotics Sparkle event on November 17 at 3:30 in the red room. That wraps it up. Dash, we are there for you. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have topics that you would like to cover in one of these webinars or in one of the Sparkle events that are starting now, let us know. You can always contact us through dash@umcg.nl. Subscribe to the newsletter by using the QR code that is on screen now, or look at our webpage or our Twitter or LinkedIn. And recordings like this you can find on our YouTube channel. There all the presentations are there, but also other topics where we have short videos on and explanation videos, etc., on different topics in data science. So also welcome to go there and start following us through those channels. So thanks again. Have a nice evening, and hope to see you all in a little later this month in the Rode Zaal at the AI and Robotics